Hey, what's up? Well, I'm back with another video, and I'm wearing my black cat necklace. I can't wait to wear it on Friday the 13th and then Halloween. So yeah, I want to make a video real quick, and what I want to start out by talking about are these cute little LED flashlights that would do such a good job of illuminating my face. So I have the pink one for my princess room and the blue one for my space room. Although I already have other lights or flashlights in those rooms. And the first thing I want to do in this video is I want to rig up these two. I want to put this one in my bathroom. And I don't know where I'm going to put this one. But first thing I want to do is see how well they do with some plain old AA batteries, because I want to see if the batteries included in the flashlights. Let's see, how do you unscrew this side, this end. I want to see if regular AA batteries will make them work. I mean, not AA, AAA. So you put it like this. See, you take that big old battery compartment out, and if these work, might try the other one. So you put these like that, and you put these like that, and you put this like that. Screw the lid back on. What do you know? It's already working. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So it is true. It is official that plain old batteries that you get from the store will make them work just as well as the ones included with them. So I have a pink one, a blue one, and a bronze one. And eventually I will have a black one right there. So what I want to talk about in this video, now that I've demonstrated that very simple act of putting batteries in a flashlight, I want to talk about in this video how my body is not an expendable end or means to an end. My body is not an expendable means to an end. Okay, and what I want to talk about is, yeah, I just don't see my body as expendable. Okay, yes, these hands can work. Yes, these hands can do great things, like what I've just demonstrated, although that is just a very minor thing compared to some of the other things that I have done. And, you know, I mean, the list goes on, but the point is, I will never look at my body and just see it as an expendable means to an end. And what do I mean by that? That I don't ever want to be looked upon as merely a tool. And that's one of the many reasons why I am not attracted to men. Because I feel like they have a very utilitarian view of everything, okay? And I see that every day. You know, plain as day, it's demonstrated for me in the form of my dad and the way he treats everything. And I feel like, unfortunately, my sister is as much like that as a girl can be. I feel like, you know, if women are not like that, I feel like she's actually more of an exception than I am. And it's very distressing, you know, considering that I wanted to be, you know, the more masculine of the two. And I already have a name in my head to go with this superhero identity that I've been fantasizing about since my body entered puberty. And so I want to think of myself as being more masculine. But the reality is that my long-haired little sister actually behaves more like that than I do in many ways, without actually wanting to be masculine. Yeah, what I mean by like a utilitarian view, something is useful or it is nothing at all. Men have this view of themselves, their bodies, others, men or women, and they view everything as like, you're only good if you can do something. You're only good if you produce, if you go to work. You're only as good as what you can do. Nothing is ever decorative or just because, you know, that's why they don't really care about beautiful artwork. And of course, there are exceptions. But like my clock that's only right twice a day, most men would have probably just thrown it in the trash and never even considered doing what I did with it. Okay, that would never fly with a man. He'd either have to get it ticking or he'd throw it in the trash. And even some women feel that way. And I feel like I just hate people that look upon everything like it has to be utilitarian. It has to be useful. And the moment that is not useful, the moment that is even just not as useful as it once was, although it could still be used for another purpose. Like, for example, my Christmas tree, that I've talked about that got damaged and the fiber optic thing no longer worked. I can't put a battery in it and make it the fiber optic tree that it once was. But I put a necklace that lights up all around it, and to me, that's just as good. Okay? But most men and a lot of women are of the mindset that the moment something stops working or being as useful as it was the day you bought it, that's when it goes in the trash. And they will, use it until the moment where it stops working. Just throw it away mentality is what I'm trying to say. And I feel like, so many men think that way, and, they don't want to just save things just because they still look nice or because they're nostalgic for the memories that they bring back. Okay. So anyway, I will never see my body. Like, I don't want to ever look at my body and just see it as, just a useful object. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not attracted to men because all they care about is what they can get out of a woman. They just don't even care. I mean, they don't even care about their own bodies that much, let alone ours, okay? So the moment we don't give them sex or children or whatever it is that they want from us, that's the moment that they'll want another woman or none at all, okay? In my dad's case, none. Since I'm fulfilling all the needs, he really has. But I don't ever want to be that way. I want to see myself as valuable just because I'm me, okay? And that's what I want to talk about, how my body is just not expendable. And what really makes me mad, I can't stop thinking about, once I get on a subject, I just obsess on it. And this whole daycare argument about how, I don't know what it is, but all the people that talk about the downside of daycares and why you shouldn't put your kids in daycare, not a one of them hardly ever mentions the illness factor. Okay, the diseases, because there's always that counter argument. Oh, you'll boost their immune system. Oh, well, they'll get more when they're a baby, but then when they're 5, they won't get as many. So effing what? The way I feel about it is like, well, first of all, I don't believe that. I think that's really, a bunch of bull. It's the flu shot mentality. It's the idea that you expose yourself to it now. You pay now so that you don't have to pay later. Well, I think that's bull, because if it were the case, I mean, to an extent, it's true. It does build your immunity, but the mere fact that adults, still get colds, because I cannot stop thinking. I'm basically obsessed with it. About all these teachers that I used to have that every single year, almost every teacher got sick at least once during the year, just like the kids. And so if it were the case, you would think that teachers that have been there for years or decades would get to a point where they no longer catch it. And I'm sure they were avoiding some of it, I'm sure they weren't catching everything that went around, but I mean, come on. Everybody has seen their teacher sick. And some of the teachers got sick more than I did, as I got into college. Certainly more severely than I did. And so, it's just, it doesn't make any sense to me, why you would want to, expose your baby, because I mean, the younger they are, the more severe it's going to be. So I mean, yes, in kindergarten they might make up for all the time that they weren't sick as a baby, but first of all, why is that such a bad thing? Why is it so much worse for it to happen at a later age? Because I think if you ask the child, would you like to have had the immune system of a 5th grader in kindergarten? I think they'd say no. I think pretty much any child, if given the choice, if they could miss fewer days of school, I mean, even if they're not Ferris Bueller, if they could miss fewer days of school, because their mom neglected them their first 5 or 6 years of life in a daycare, so that they could catch everything that went around, and that way they would not only have a mom that isn't there for them and be a latchkey kid in elementary school, but they would also not get sick as much, so they don't even get to miss school, like the other kids who had a stay-at-home mom. Well, I think most kids, would choose the life that I had. And the reality about the study, that they're always quoting, well, daycare kids don't get sick as much in elementary school. Well, that's only really true for elementary school, okay? Once the kids got to be like 13 and up, you could not tell the difference. Like, you could not tell, because what happened was it balances out. The kids who didn't go to daycare, what they found was that surprisingly they were still more likely to get sick, in their first 5 years of life, because they probably weren't as isolated as I was. They probably went to church and all that as a baby, even if they didn't go to daycare. And so the kids who didn't go to daycare, and some of them may have even had older siblings, they found that the cold rate that they had, say, in their first 5 years was still slightly higher than in elementary school, but that they had like a gradual decrease, just very gradually, to the adult level, by the age of 13. And but the kids who did go to daycare, they had a lot of colds when they were little, but then in elementary school they were only slightly less likely to get them than the kids who hadn't. Okay, so yeah, I mean, they may have had a few healthier years, because of it, but by the time they got to like junior high and high school, you could not tell the difference. They were all getting pretty much 2 to 4 colds like an adult by their teens. And in my case, I get 1 or less. And I never set foot in a daycare my first, 6 years of life. And I probably only had like a couple of colds per year those years. So, by the time they get to be an adult, it really doesn't matter when they built their immune system. Whether they went to daycare the moment they were born, they were like when they were 1 day old, or they waited until they were ready for preschool at age 3 or 4 or 5, or you know what I'm saying? Or they went to school for the first time at age 6. In kindergarten, like me, I was redshirted. Or whether they were homeschooled until some point, and started public school, or whether they were homeschooled through the 12th grade, by the time they get to be an adult, somehow or another, it's pretty much the same. The averages are still going to be, I would say, about 4 or less colds per year, because 2 to 4 doesn't include me. I'm 1 or less. Okay, but the most important thing about that whole argument, because I've talked about that a lot, how I would never want to have kids because, you know, there's a chance I could have to put them in daycare. And, you know, and they're like, oh, well, that would build their immune system. Well, you know, as I've stated before, it's not enough of an advantage. You know, it's only the difference of, you know, maybe a few slightly healthier years. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like you're forcing their immune system to grow up faster is all that's happening, okay? Eventually, you know, we all build up some immunity by some point. But what's happening with the daycare kids is they just grow up faster in more than one way. They even enter puberty just a little bit younger on average. So, you know, all you're doing, you know, by putting them in daycare is you're just kind of telling their body that when it comes to their immune system, they're just slightly older than they otherwise would be. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like when they get to kindergarten, you know, they have an immune system more like a 10-year-old, which is really not strong. It's certainly not compared to me as a 40-year-old. So, you know, and that's what I'm saying, you know, because by the time they're a teenager, there's not much difference between an adult and a teenager. It doesn't really matter. So anyway, you know, but I just do not think it would be worth it. But what's more important that nobody wants to address is how that affects the rest of the family. So even if it benefited the child, you know, for a short period of time, even if you saw some value in a perfect attendance award in kindergarten, you know, even if that mattered to some extent for the child, what's never talked about is, you know, how does that impact the rest of the family? You know what I'm saying? And that's what I mean. My body is not an expendable means to an end. I'm not expendable. I will never see myself that way. I mean, sure, I can do stuff, but I don't value myself based on what I can do. I'm valuable because of who I am, who and what I am. And so if that makes me a narcissist, oh well. But you know, I don't like, and that's why I don't even want to go through childbirth, because I don't see my body, you know, because no one considers, you know, what is that doing to the mom? You know, whether it's daycare, preschool, kindergarten, you know, because I know from personal experience what it did to the rest of the family, because I remember, you know, having 9 colds in 8th grade instead of 4 in 7th, and then 5 in 9th. I know what it does, you know, to put your child in something like that, and then to have to, you know, have to deal with that child when they come home. I know what it does, and that's, you see, that's the thing. It's not so much, you know, when the child builds their immunity, but I think daycare is just plain awful. And I wish more people would talk about that, but, you know, it's about me more than anything. I don't want someone strengthening his manly immune system at my expense. You know, I don't want to deal with the sick kid, especially a boy, you know, because they get more illnesses. They're just filthy. That's just how it is. And I shudder to imagine, you know, just how many colds a brother would have had, because we were both girls, yet we caught our fair share. So, anyway, you know, I just want to talk about that. How, you know, it's not even so much about the kid in my case. You know, it's about me not wanting to experience those 6 cold winters and more ever again in my life, because I'm not a means to an end. Real quickly, I forgot to put the batteries in the black one. Let's see. It's this end. So I got this out. And let's see, what do I put this one, and this one. And then drop it. And there we go. Let there be light.